All right, this video will hopefully help you get started using Flash. We're going to create the basic skills animation, and I'm using Flash Professional CC, which is a free trial download. However, the version you're using will work very similar and should look very similar, but you may have some slight changes on where things show up on your screen. I'm going to go start a new file, and you should open up Flash. Go to Create New, Action Script 3. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by creating a different color for the background. So I'm going to right-click on the stage. This is the stage. Here's your menu bar. We've got over here a couple of windows, Property and Library. Got your tools over here, which may be in another location on your screen. And down in this area, we've got the timeline. So we're going to make use of all of these. So to begin with, I'm going to change the background color. So to go to Document, and then I'm going to go to Stage Color, and I'm just going to pick a color. I think on that one it was more of an orange, so I'm going to click on orange and say OK. Then the next thing I'm going to do is put in some text. So notice down here we've got layers. We should make use of those layers. So I'm going to click on it and give a name to this. So I'm going to call this Intro Text. And on the stage, I'm going to put in some text. So this is your selection button. I'm going to go down here to Text, click on Text, and then click and drag out a rectangle to be the area for the text. Then in the Properties window, so over here, I'm now going to click on Properties, and I can change the style of the text. I can change the size of the text. So I'm going to click on here for size of text, and I'm going to maybe make it about 24 for now. You can decide what you're going to do. Change the color of the text. You need to change the color, so I'm going to maybe make it blue. And then I'm going to type in my text. So this one is called Basic Skills Animation. Where did it go? I lost my text tool there. I somehow got shifted down here, so I'm going to go here. And I'm going to say Basic Skills Animation, and then I can click away from it, and now I've got it. If I want to move it around, I can use my selection tool and grab it and move it to where I want it to be on the screen. If I want to change my zoom on the screen, I can change it up here, or I can simply type Control- on my screen, on my keyboard, and now I can see the entire stage. Another one to use here is to show frame, and that'll show me the entire stage. Now I'm going to put another piece of text. So that one here, notice that to begin with I had a frame and I had a white dot in here. Now that I've put something on there, it's turned it into a filled in keyframe, and the dot turns black. I'm going to create another layer. So I'm going to go down here to New Layer, and I'm going to call this by Moore Text. And I don't worry about the caps lock or anything. It doesn't really matter, just as long as I can figure out what's on each layer. And there, I'm going to go and I'm going to put in some more text. So I'm going to click on Text. I'm going to maybe move it down just slightly, just to make sure that it doesn't show up on the stage. I'm going to center it. Now what I'm going to want to do is I want this to scroll up onto the screen at the start of the animation. So what I do now is I'm going to create what's called a motion tween. So to do a motion tween, what we do is we go to the frame, the first frame that this shows up on, and then right click and insert keyframe. Create motion tween. And notice that it puts in frames for me. It's going to, by default, put in 24 frames for the motion tween. You can later change that, make it shorter or longer. So I can just drag here and make it shorter or longer. And it shows you down here that your default frames per second is 24. That means that in 1 second, it's going to complete 24 frames. So by default, the motion tween is 1 second long. But again, we can change it. So I can make it shorter if I want. Maybe I want it to be a half a second, so go somewhere in around 12. It doesn't have to be exact. And then what I want to do now is notice that there's a keyframe on the beginning here, but there's nothing on the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag, so I'm going to use the selection tool. I'm going to drag the text up to where I want it to go. And I'm just going to make sure that that's where I want it. Notice that my other text isn't showing yet. I'll show you why in a minute. Okay? So if I put this maybe somewhere in around here, then notice that it puts in this line. That's the motion path that the motion tween is going to go along. Also notice that down here this is filled in with a black dot, so that there's a keyframe in on that motion tween. Now if I move the playhead back and forth, I can see the motion happening. Right? And if I go anywhere near this motion tween, I can click on it and drag it and make the text do all sorts of unusual things. Okay, so I can change that motion. I can also, anywhere along the way, insert a different motion, another keyframe, and change the motion within that. So, but I'm going to leave that for right now. So this is good for the motion. Now what I need to do, I need to see the other text all the way through until that point. So I would click here at the end of that frame, just because that's where I want it to go up until that point. Right click and insert keyframe. What happens there is I'm going to turn off the layer above it, so I can go over here and click on it so I don't see the stuff from the motion tween. What happens here is it fills in each frame between these two keyframes with exactly the same thing. So it's put the basic skills animation text on frame 1 all the way to frame 14 there. And that's what I want to have happen. So I'm going to turn this back on, this layer. And now if I play the animation, the easiest way to play the animation is to just hit enter, or I can go up to control and play. Okay? And that's now what my animation looks like so far. Now we want to carry on. The next thing to do is to turn the basic skills animation text into a shape tween and have it turn into a rectangle. So what we're going to do is to go down and create another layer, and I'm going to drag it to the top. You can always drag layers up or down. I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to say text to rectangle shape tween. Again, it doesn't really matter what you call the layers, just as long as later on you'll be able to figure out what they were. I'm going to now take the text and I want to copy it up to that layer. So I'm going to click on this frame, right click. I'm going to select copy frames, and then I'm going to go up to the new layer, right click. I'm going to insert a keyframe, and notice that it's white right now because there's nothing in there, and then I'm going to paste frame, and now it's in there. If I turn off this layer, then I've got the basic skills animation. Notice that anywhere before that I don't, because I've turned off this layer. Turn on the layer again, I've got basic skills animation text, and now it's actually on two layers. There's one above the other, but they're both in the exact same spot. So now what I want to do is I want to create what's called a shape tween. So I'm going to go further along, maybe somewhere another half a second. So I'm going to go somewhere in around here, and I'm going to right click and insert blank keyframe this time. If I insert a keyframe, it's going to fill it with the basic skills animation text. I don't really want that right now. What I want is to just put in a blank keyframe, and I'm going to put a different shape on there. If I put in insert keyframe, I can always delete out what's on there. But I'm going to do it this way just so that I don't have to do that. And now I'm going to put the shape that I want. So I'm going to go down here to the tools, or sorry, over to the right hand side to the tools, and I'm going to click on it. Right now the tool is blue, so I'm going to leave it that way, and I'm going to draw out a rectangle. I'm going to make it something like that. Okay, and maybe I'll even just drag it up a little bit further. Okay. Now what I want to do, notice that actually it's got an outline here. I should have gotten rid of the stroke outline. I don't want to have this border on every shape, so I'm going to delete that out. And actually I need to delete out all the parts of it now. Actually I'm going to Control Z, and I'll put in the rectangle again, but this time I will first get rid of the stroke color. I'm going to go to the rectangle command. Right now there's a stroke color here. This is the fill color. I'm going to get rid of that by going over, and I think this is just off your screen. there is a little square dot or square box with a line, white area and white and a red line through it. Select that, and this is what I've selected out of the color palette. Next thing I'm going to do is put in the rectangle. So I'm going to draw out the rectangle. And now I've got a shape in here. So I've got text on one and shape on the other. Now for me to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shape tween. But first, I can't shape tween text. So I have to first select the text and then right click on it and do break apart. Okay, so notice that I was on the first frame of this tween. Then I right clicked on it and I selected break apart. Then I do it again and break it apart, and now it's just purely shapes. It's not text anymore. Now if I click somewhere in between the two keyframes, right click, create shape tween, notice what happens. It turns the in the timeline, this turns green and I get a line in there. The motion tween was blue, and so you can tell the difference between a shape tween and a motion tween. Now my text transforms into a rectangle. I next want to make the rectangle turn into a circle, so I'm going to create yet another shape tween. So the next thing in the animation now is to take this large rectangle and have it shrink and move over to the upper left corner of the stage. So to do that, I could do that directly after the shape tween that we just made, and it would work. That's different than with motion tweens. With a motion tween, you can't have the same thing or multiple objects on the same layer if there's motion tweens. But here, I still think it's good practice to make a new layer so that we can quickly identify that portion of the animation. So here I'm going to go to New Layer, and I'm going to call this one Big Rectangle to Little Rectangle. Again, the layer names are your decision. Make them something that you'll be able to figure out what each one is for. So now I'm going to take what's on the text layer, and I'm going to copy that one up to the new layer, and I'm going to paste the frame in. So now I've got a keyframe up on this layer, and really what I've got is this rectangle on the new layer as well as the previous layer. Now I want to create a shape tween. So I'm going to go to somewhere on the timeline. I'm going to say at about keyframe 35. I don't want it to last too long. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert keyframe. Now I'm going to take the object, so I'm going to use the select tool. I'm going to slide it over here, and actually I should use the transform tool where I get the grips, and now I can change the shape of it, and I can also move it at the same time. And now I've got the new shape shown in this last keyframe. So now I can click in between, right click, and create shape tween. And now this acts the way I want it to act.